I think the most difficult thing in trading is cutting losses short and holding on to winners, letting winners run. How do you guys do it? Cutting losses short takes time, and there's also a neurological thing you're fighting against, because your brain, your body knows that if I close that position, that loss is official. And because of our natural negativity bias, we're not naturally wired to just be like, okay, I'm just going to take the hit now. I'm just going to take it now, because there's some part of us that believes, well, maybe the trade will progress, evolve, turn into profit. And if I close it now, I lose that potential. Like, that's all going on a neurological, biological level. So that is something you just have to learn to wire. Eventually, you do it enough times and you start to see the results of that. And that becomes like its own convincing, kind of pattern wiring in your brain. First off, before you should be cutting losses, you should be clear that you have a definitive edge in managing your trades versus not managing your trades. So you have to look at those two side by side. You take 100 of trades, no management, set and forget, 100 of the trades managing it, put those two side by side, whichever is the winner is the one where your better skill is at that point in time. Let's assume you've done that. Cutting losses short, you'll have to create criteria for doing that. And we'll talk further about the management criteria for managing trades in the new version of this course, or whatever we're changing this course into. So I won't give away the methods in terms of that. But in terms of doing that, you're going to follow those methods, and eventually that will create a statistical result. And that statistical result will speak for itself. Hey, I'm statistically better managing my stop losses versus letting them hit their full target. You take 100 of the same trades, manage the stop losses, don't manage them, whichever one's better, that's your answer. That first, you need to have that. But let's assume you are that person that is statistically better managing your stop losses. Let's just say it's even a slight edge. You gain 1% more by cutting your losses short than letting them run. Okay, well then from there, your goal and focus should be, how can you improve that? So then you start developing patterns and criteria for doing that. What patterns? You look at all your losses and be like, all the ones that hit your stop losses, and like, okay, what patterns were consistently there? They just, showed up again and again and again that this trade was not going to work out. So you start to identify the patterns in the market, pattern recognition skill. There's that thing again. You get that in, you start to build and develop that skill over hundreds and hundreds of repetitions of trades. And then eventually your brain will just kind of like analyze all the data, synthesize, and be like, okay, I know what that is. So that will start on a subconscious level, basically, or an unconscious level. Your brain will start to have a pretty good amount of data in terms of like, okay, I've seen this pattern before. This generally means this. And so the first signal will come through like, the trade's going towards your stop loss, and you're going to be like, I don't know, this just doesn't feel like, I feel like this trade's dead. I feel like, I should get out. But you won't do anything about it. Why? Because that process of getting a signal from your unconscious and subconscious mind isn't fully wired in yet. It's coming from like this deep database that's able to like synthesize the data and send a signal, like try and get it to the surface of your conscious mind. But that, that ability to recognize that communication in your brain isn't fully developed. So you'll probably ignore it the first time. Or you may like follow it the first time, but you're going to experience that signal dozens of times, and it won't be fully fledged yet. The more you start to listen to those communications, and those communications start to pan out correctly, the stronger that communication will happen between your conscious mind, subconscious mind, and unconscious mind. And eventually when those three are in harmony, then you will start to just be like, oh, I know the signal. This is my database in my brain telling me I need to get out. And it's a strong feeling, and and then you just do it. That will take time. You have to build that. We'll get into the methods for managing trades in the next webinar for those who complete the requirements to do so. How do you manage your mindset and emotions when your price hits your stop loss and take profit? At this point in my process, I've had thousands of experiences to manage my emotions and learn how to manage them. So for me, it's not like I experienced like this huge up and down emotional swing if something was to hit my stop loss and then go to my take profit. I can tell you what I do right now, which is that I've had many times where the market just hits my stop loss, maybe goes just like a few points, pips or past it, and then goes straight to my take profit. And so the first thing I do is start thinking like, okay, well, what can I learn from this? Was there a way that, did I miss something? Did I trade out of character? Did I trade out of plan? First thing I'm looking to do is examine, did I do anything out of plan or character? And if I, in terms of an execution perspective, and if the answer is no, I go through the list of things I was supposed to execute that I didn't do anything out of character. Well, then, okay, I executed properly. That's super important. So I reinforce that. But then I look at, okay, is there anything I can learn from this in terms of giving it a little more spaciousness? So the first thing I'm doing is I'm taking this mental energy, and if I experience some sort of emotion, I'm taking the energy and directing it towards something constructive. And I go through a process of first examining how did I execute mentally and in terms of the trade. So that's one of the first things I'm doing. So I'm taking that emotion and I'm directing that into a constructive force. I'm also trying to mitigate that emotion in real time for not becoming like some sort of full-blown fire, 5-alarm fire type thing. Earlier in the process, before I had the ability to do that, well, the best thing you can do is, one of the best things you can do is just stop doing anything else, not look at the charts, not look at anything, and just take a moment towards you. Okay, what am I feeling right now? Build awareness in this moment. What am I feeling right now? Oh, I'm angry. Why am I angry? Start questioning, start going through this process. Distance yourself from the emotion in the sense of there's a difference between experiencing an emotion and saying to yourself internally, I am angry versus I feel angry. Do you see the difference there? I am angry is self-identifying with the anger itself. It's like saying me angry. Like your brain will translate as me angry. I feel angry is a very different relationship with the emotion. It's not something I am, it's something I am experiencing. It's also, there's implicit in this kind of admission, I feel angry, that, as I said before, that kind of bell curve of experience, it starts off, there's nothing, then the experience turns into something, and the emotion arises, and then falls, and then dissipates. So there's a difference, there's an implicit admission in this experience of, I am feeling something right now, but this feeling is going to be temporary and eventually will fade. So, for example, do you all feel the same level of anger towards, or frustration or emotion towards a loss of a trade that happened 2 years ago? No, that experience is gone. The experience arose, hit its peak, and then faded. And then it's gone. All experiences are like that. All experiences arise out of nothing, manifest, increase in intensity, energy, and experience. They eventually peak, and then they fade back into nothing. Who can remember what they were thinking on April 2nd, 2015 at 4:20 p.m.? Nobody. Why? Because that thing is gone. It's not something that sticks. All experiences arise and fall. I am is way worse than I feel. I feel is a much better way to experience the emotion. I feel angry. It's not identifying with it. It's saying, hey, this is something I'm experiencing right now. It's not necessarily me. I'm not defining myself with the anger. I'm just defining my experience, this temporary experience, as anger in this moment. And that gives me something, that gives me distance and the possibility to work with that. But I am angry is different. It's much harder to work with that. You're self-identifying with it. You're making it about you. You are concretizing that habit of anger as being equal to you. That's super important that you avoid that as much as possible. So that's emotional intelligence. That's one aspect of emotional intelligence. I am angry versus I feel angry.